Section 24 of Library Essays, papers related to the work of public libraries. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Jennifer Beckett Wood. Library Essays, papers related to the work of public libraries by Arthur Elmore Bostwick. 3 Kinds of Librarians. The human eye is so constituted that it can see clearly but a small part of the field of vision at one time. We have learned by habit to move it about quickly and comprehensively, so that unless our attention is called to the fact, we do not realize this limitation, but it exists. In like manner, it is difficult for the human mind to take a comprehensive view of a subject. We are apt to fix upon some one feature and ignore the rest. In recent times, we have been devoting our attention to the personal element. We talk about the man behind the gun a good deal. I would not underrate him or what he can do, but it is surely necessary to have the gun itself before the man behind it can be effective. In fact, the man per se is about the most helpless of animals. His superiority to the mere brute lies in his ability to use tools, his inferiority in the fact that he can do almost nothing without them. A man with a gun is indeed formidable. A wildcat can do nothing with such a tool, but then he is reasonably formidable without it. I have yielded thus to the temptation to depreciate the personal element somewhat at the beginning of an address in which it is to be discussed, because this defect of the human mind, that tends to fix it upon one feature to the exclusion of others, has of late apparently led many to think that a man is valuable in himself and by himself, without anything to work with or anything to work on. A man is making a failure of his job. The first thought is that he must be replaced. 9 persons out of 10 fail to inquire whether anyone at all could have succeeded under the same conditions. Your cook prepares an inedible meal. You rage and call loudly for a new regime in the kitchen, whereas all the time your competent servant has been struggling with a faulty range, tough meat, and bad flour. Shall we then sit down and refuse to do anything at all unless our tools and our materials are of the best? By no means. One of the chief distinctions between a capable and an inefficient worker lies in the ability of the former to make the best of unpromising conditions. No one can do as well with poor tools and materials as with good ones, but the good worker will turn out a better job with the former than the inefficient one will. These things apply, of course, to the library worker as to all others, especially to librarians in small towns where tools and materials are apt to be not of the best. Among tools we may reckon buildings, books, and all kinds of library appliances. The material is the community on which the librarian, by proper use of her tools, aims to produce a certain effect. Now it is open to such a worker to view her task from any one of 3 different standpoints, to choose, we will say, from 3 different kinds of librarianship. She may be a librarian of the day before yesterday, of yesterday, or of today. The librarian of the day before yesterday is the librarian of a part of the community. Not only does she make no effort to encourage the use of her library, but she distinctly discourages certain persons and certain classes of persons from entering it. This grade of librarian includes as many kinds as there are persons or classes of the community that may be discouraged. Some, for instance, exclude all the poorly dressed or all of inferior social status. Others welcome just these and exclude the well-dressed and well-to-do. The philanthropic donor of a city branch library building once waxed very wroth when she saw a carriage standing in front of the building. Her library, she said, was for the poor, not for carriage people. These ways of looking at things are sometimes an inheritance from former conditions. A subscription library turned into a free public library hesitates to welcome, all at once, the lower strata that have so long been banished from its doors. On the other hand, a public library that has developed from a charitable foundation regards these as its proper users and looks askance at the well-to-do, as in the case of the good lady with her carriage people. When I speak of the exclusion of a class of persons, I do not mean that they are formally kept out or even consciously discouraged. This is why it is so easy to be a librarian of the day before yesterday. That day was a comfortable day, an easy day to be self-satisfied in. It had its libraries for the rich and its libraries for the poor. Some class was always named, even if some were always left out. It may be that the exclusion operates through features that are in themselves excellent. I have seen, in a small community, a library building so fine, with such an atmosphere of quiet good taste, and so ladylike a librarian, that the great public no more dared to enter therein than if a fierce lion had stood in the doorway. I have known libraries, too, in which the books were too good. Certain classes in the community were not intellectually up to them. I have also known libraries that were never used by the foreigners in their communities, or by the coloured people. These latter, strange to say, were largely in the North. The South recognises the Negro and pays him much attention, in its way. It settles his status and sees that it is observed. He has the last 4 seats on the trolley car, and he has his separate library accommodations. In the North, he is on an equality with the white man, in everything but reality. He is welcome to the library in theory, and he does not use it in practice. I fear that in this respect too many of us belong to the day before yesterday. I trust that I have made it clear that the librarian of day before yesterday is not a bad librarian. He or she is just a librarian of day before yesterday. That is all. Now we will step into one of Mr. H.G. Wells's time machines and take a short spin ahead into yesterday. The librarian of yesterday excludes no one at all from his library, for he is within one step of being up to date. He discourages no person nor any class of persons. He stands in his doors with outstretched arms and announces that his library is free to all, that it has books for all, rich and poor, old and young, barbarian, Scythian, bond and free. The selection of books is well thought out and adapted to the community in which it is. The accommodations are ample and fitting. Everyone is welcome. What more could you ask? Nothing at all, provided you are still in yesterday. Yesterday, this sort of library was regarded as the last word in the popularization of the book, and it is indeed a long step in advance of day before yesterday. The librarian's material is before him. He has good books. Is more needed than this? Yea, verily. One may have a nail and a hammer to drive it, also an egg and a pan to fry it, yet one cannot fry the egg with the hammer. Some selective action is necessary before we can attain the result that we want. A minister, presiding at a wedding in which several couples were to be united at once, read the marriage service and then exclaimed, "I pronounce you men and wives. Now you can sort yourselves." The trouble is that things will not sort themselves. They must have someone to sort them. And this is what is the matter with the library and the librarian of yesterday. They fail to make connection between the man and the book, so that part of the fine collection remains wholly or relatively unused, and part of the community that it ought to serve remains apart from the library, despite the librarian's outstretched arms and his words of welcome. If he had read his Bible, as his great-grandparents used to do, he would have realized that to fill the table at the wedding feast of literature and life, a simple invitation sufficeth not. We must go out into the highways and hedges and compel them to come in. The attitude of passive expectancy, of ability and willingness to serve those who come, was well enough for yesterday, but not for the new library day that has dawned in these United States of America. Apparently the library dawn moves eastward as the physical day moves westward, for over in the mother country only a few lofty peaks are yet gilded by its sunshine. Even in our own land there are gorges where the dusk lingers. There are even grottos where darkness will always be. But we are mostly in the light. We realize that if we have a book on the dyeing of textile fabrics, and if there is an unheeding man in our community who would be helped by that book, all the complacent receptivity that we can muster will not suffice to bring them together. And with this knowledge comes an awakening of conscience. Long ago we stopped crying out, "Am I my brother's keeper?" We realize that as members of the community, we must bear our share of responsibility for what is done in the community, and that collectively we must take measures for the community's welfare. Each of us is a Roman dictator, in that it is our business to see that the Republic suffers no harm. Thus, the community appoints special officers to look out for the interests of its members in certain directions. We public librarians are such officers. We are proud of saying that we stand on the same plane as the teachers in our schools and the professors in our colleges. Nay, even a little higher, for the facilities for education over which we preside are offered long after school and college years are over. Now the teacher does not stand in the doorway and announce that she is willing and ready to instruct all who may so desire in reading, writing, and arithmetic, that she has a well-equipped schoolroom, blackboards, globes, and textbooks for all who will take advantage of them. Not so. The community goes out and compels its members to take advantage of all these things. In like manner also, the community makes all sorts of laws for its own preservation and betterment. It does not say, "See, here are good laws, come ye who will and obey them." On the contrary, it goes out into highways and hedges and sees that all its members obey. I would not push this analogy too far. No one expects that the community will require that everyone within its borders shall use the public library so many times a month, or indeed that it shall be used at all. The nature of the institution precludes such compulsion, but it should require that every effort be made to see that no section of the books on the library shelves shall lie idle, and that no section of the community shall fail to use books, either through ignorance or through doubt of a welcome. The librarian should say, "Here is an unused book. Is it without value in this community? Then let it make place for a better. Has it value? Then why is it not used? Somewhere in this community is the man, woman, or child who, whether realizing it or not, would derive pleasure or profit, or both, from reading it. It is my business to seek out that person. Again, here is a man who does not read books. Is this because no book would appeal to him? Impossible. He may think so, but there lives no one to whom the soul of some fellow man, speaking through the printed page, will not bring a welcome message. Is there such a book on my shelves? If so, it is my business to get it into that man's hands. If not, I must buy, beg, or borrow it as soon as I may. When the librarian has begun to talk in this fashion, lo, the dawn is shining. He is a librarian of today. The librarian of today frowns on no one, discourages no one, and he stands not passively at his door with open arms. He walks through his library. He walks through his town. He knows the books in one and the dwellers in the other, and he knows both in their relationships, actual and possible. If there are disused books on his shelves or non-readers in his community, it is not because he has made no effort to bring them together. His failures are not those of negligence. The other day, sitting in a stalled trolley car, my eye fell upon a street cleaner, and I began to watch him with interest. He was busy, apparently, I was going to say, but that does him injustice. He was really busy. While I watched him, and the car was delayed for some little time, he was constantly at work, pushing over the asphalt the broad scraper that was intended to rid it of dust and refuse. And yet he did not clean the street, for he took no account of the inequalities of its surface. These required intelligent adaptation of his movements at every instant, and to this he paid no attention. He went through the motions. His actual expenditure of physical energy was probably as great as if he had mixed a little brain work with it, but it failed to accomplish what it ought, simply from that lack. And yet it would have been difficult for any overseer to give him orders that would have bettered the matter. It would have been hard to point out at any given instant his errors of commission or of omission. The only way in which one could tell that he was not doing his work properly was by the result. He was put there to clean the street, and the street was not cleaned. So with the librarians of yesterday and the day before. They are hard workers, not idlers. They have the tools, and they go through the motions. They may tire themselves out with their labour. Their library buildings may be attractive and clean, their technique perfect, their books well selected and in good order, their catalogues excellent. It is hard to point to any one thing that they are doing incorrectly, or that they are omitting. And yet we must judge their work by its fruits. They are put into a community of actual or potential readers in charge of a collection of books. What are these for, if not to be read? Yet many remain untouched. For what purpose have the schools taught the townspeople to read? Thousands of them make no good use of that knowledge. To the librarian of today, the non-realization of this and the lack of effort to remedy it mean failure. In order to make a little more definite our ideas of these three kinds of librarians, let us consider one or two very practical problems and see how each would probably view them and act upon them. First, the library circulates no books on plumbing. For the librarian of the day before yesterday, this is no problem at all. Probably his library has no books on plumbing. His library is not for plumbers, and he has never suspected that it could be. As for the plumbers in his community, they too have never considered the possibility that they might learn something of their work from books in a public library. They are therefore silent and uncomplaining. Peace reigns, and there is a general state of satisfaction all round, the satisfaction of blissful ignorance and of the day before yesterday. The librarian of yesterday, on the other hand, sees the problem clearly and is concerned about it. He has good books on plumbing, and nobody reads them. Evidently the more advanced grade of the librarian has not affected the plumbers. They still remain in ignorance of the public library. But what is he to do? Here is the library, here are the books, here is the librarian, ready and willing to distribute them to all who may come. If the generation, or any part of it, is so wicked and perverse that it comes not, what is there to do? What indeed? And so library and community remain in the twilight of yesterday, just before the dawn. The librarian of today not only sees the problem and is concerned about it, but he proceeds to do something. Just what he does or how he does it is of far less consequence than the fact that he sees action in the matter to be necessary and possible. He may go personally and interview the plumbers. He may send them lists. He may get permission to address the plumbers' union. He may do one or many of 1,000 things to remedy matters. And although it is certain that what he does will not be completely effective, it is equally certain that it will have some good effect, which is the main thing. Problem second. Examination of the registry list shows that there are practically no card holders in a certain part of the town. As in the former case, this is no problem at all to the day before yesterday librarian. Its existence would in general not appear to him, certainly not as the result of any kind of statistical investigation. If he were informed of it, he would regard the fact with complacency. The library is for readers, and if certain persons are non-readers, they had better keep away. Nothing could be simpler. The librarian of yesterday, on the other hand, feels that all is not right. It is certainly too bad that when library privileges are offered free to all, so large a portion of the community should fail to take advantage of them. The library stands ready to help these people, if they will only come. Why don't they? The librarian of yesterday thus stops with a question. The librarian of today proceeds to answer it. He finds out why they don't come. He may discover one or more of any number of things. Whatever may be the causes, they are sure to be interesting, at least to him, for the today librarian is a born investigator. It may be that the non-readers are literate, but take no interest in books. Perhaps they say they have no time to read. Possibly the library has not the kind of books that they like. They may be foreigners, reading no English, and the library may have no books in their tongue. Whatever the trouble may be, the librarian of today sets about to remedy it. He may not succeed, but it is the diagnosis and the attempt at treatment, not its success, that constitute him what he is. Problem third. The reading done through the library is trivial and inconsequential. The fiction drawn is of low order, and there is little else to read. The way in which this will affect the three types of librarian may be predicted at once. The librarian of the day before yesterday heeds it not. The librarian of yesterday heeds and perhaps worries, but does nothing. The librarian of today finds out the trouble and then tries to remedy it. And so it goes. You may construct other problems for yourselves and imagine their solution or lack of solution. Now, it is obvious that there are great and evident objections to being a librarian of today and corresponding advantages in being one of the other kinds. In the first place, the today variety of librarianship involves brain work, and it is always difficult to use one's brain. We saw that in the case of the street cleaner. Then this kind of librarian must be always looking for trouble. Instead of congratulating himself that all is going smoothly, he must set out with the premise that all cannot be going smoothly. There must be some way in which his books can be made to serve more people and serve them better, and it is his business to find out that way. Then the today librarian must use his statistics. The librarian of the day before yesterday probably takes none at all. The librarian of yesterday collects them with diligence, but regards any suggestion that they might be of use somewhat as the lazy wood sawyer did the advice that he should sharpen his saw. "I should think I had a big enough job to cut up all this wood," he replied petulantly, "without stopping to sharpen saws." The librarian of yesterday has trouble enough in collecting and tabulating his statistics without stopping to use them, to make any deductions from them, to learn where the library machine is failing and where he should use the wrench or the oil can. All these things and many others make it easier for the overworked librarian to drop back into yesterday or the day before. It should be borne in mind, however, that the difference between the three types of librarian is not so much difference in the amount of work done as it is in attitude of mind. The librarian of today does not necessarily expend more energy than the librarian of day before yesterday, but it is expended in a different direction and with a different object. It is to be feared that some librarians of small libraries allow themselves to become discouraged after reading of the great things that have been accomplished by large institutions with plenty of money to spend. the circulation of millions of books yearly, the purchase of editions by the tens of thousands, the provision of exhibitions for the children, the storytelling by professionals, the huge collections on special subjects, technology, art, or history. It almost seems as if success was simply a matter of spending, and as if without money to spend, failure should be expected as a matter of course. On the contrary, all that the money does is to make possible success on a large and sensational scale. Without the proper spirit and the proper workers, the result might be failure on a scale quite as sensational. And an enthusiastic spirit, a high aim, and unflagging energy. These are things that no money can buy, and that will bring success on the small scale as on the large one. We are fortunate, we who have charge of libraries and are trying to do something worthwhile with them, that there is perhaps less of the spirit of pure commercialism among us than among some other classes of workers. For this, in part, we have to thank our inadequate salaries. People who desire to work simply for the material reward will select some other field. We are glad to get our reward, we certainly earn it, but I venture to say that in the case of most of us there is also something in the work that appeals to us. And that something is the thing that, pushed to its furthest extent, will bring the dawn of today into the most backward library. It is not a very inspiring thing simply to sit down and watch a pile of books, hardly more so, I should think, than to take care of a pile of bricks or a load of turnips. Interest, enthusiasm, inspiration come with realization of the fact that every one of those books has a mission, and that it is the librarian's business to find what it is and to see that it is performed. In the large, wealthy institution, this duty may be accompanied by the expenditure of vast sums, and may be performed with the aid of things that only large sums of money can buy. In the small library, there may be but a single librarian and only a few dollars to spend. But, just as in the case of a city librarian with an ample salary, she has open to her the choice of those three types of librarianship: the day before yesterday, yesterday, and today. And how about the librarian of tomorrow? Perhaps it may be as well to leave him or her for future consideration, but I cannot help saying just a word. May it not be that in the days to come we shall have enough civic pride to do whatever we may find to do, in our libraries or anywhere else, not with our eyes fixed only upon the work itself, important as that may be, but with the broader viewpoint of its effect upon the whole community? May it not be that this librarian of tomorrow will ask not, will it raise my circulation, or even, will it improve the quality of my reading, but, will it better the reading that is done in this community? That librarian will not rejoice that his library circulation of good novels has dropped, when he realizes that twice as many bad novels are bought and read outside. He will be pleased that the children in his library have learnt to wash their hands, but chiefly because he hopes that what they have learned may react upon the physical cleanliness, and perhaps on the moral cleanliness too, of the community. Much as he will love the library, he will love it as an agency for the improvement of the community in which he lives and works, and he will do nothing for its aggrandizement, expansion, or improvement that involves a change of the community in the opposite direction. We shall not see one library rejoicing because it has enticed away the users of some other library. We may even see a library rejoicing that it has lost its readers in Polish history, we will say, when it becomes known that they have gone to another library with a better collection in that subject. I confess that I am looking forward to the day when we shall take this view, when the adage, "Every man for himself and the devil take the hindmost," may be forgotten among institutions in the same town. The policy that it represents makes for high speed, perhaps, but not for solidarity. In a fight such as we are waging with the forces of ignorance and indifference, We should all keep shoulder to shoulder. This is why the librarian should say, "I am a citizen. Nothing in this city is without interest to me." That is why he should be a librarian of today, and why he may even look forward with hopefulness to the dawn of a still better tomorrow. End of section 24.